Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I didn't test this out in advance. My name is Matt O'Donnell. I'm from 6 ABC Action News. I'm the morning guy. I've been up since 2:21 in the morning. I will be a very alert host for you. Welcome to the Mayoral Candidates Forum on Hospitality and Tourism. We have 7 candidates, well, 6 right now. 1 is missing at this point, but 7 candidates in all, 1 Republican, 6 Democrats, all on the ballot for May 19th, which is about a month away. That is the primary day in Philadelphia. The last day to register to vote is Monday. Hold your applause as I introduce all the candidates here at the table. Nelson Diaz, Lynn Abraham, Anthony Williams, Doug Oliver, James Kenney, and Melissa Murray Bailey. They are all here to address opportunities and challenges in our travel and tourism industry. The Mayoral Candidates Forum on Hospitality and Tourism is hosted by the 5 major tourism industry organizations: the Greater Philadelphia Hotel Association, the Independence Visitors Center, the Pennsylvania Convention Center, the Philadelphia Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Visit Philadelphia. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics says these organizations support 65,000 leisure and hospitality jobs in Philadelphia and generate $5.8 billion in annual economic impact and $400 million in state and local tax revenue. Basically, you guys are a big deal. Here in the audience, staff, board members, and other stakeholders of the 5 hospitality agencies, welcome, and it's my pleasure to be your host. I will ask questions about issues that you care about. I will introduce each candidate. Each will get 1 minute for an opening statement. Then I will choose 1 question for each candidate from a pre-made stack of cards, which I have right here. Each card has a different question. There is no order. No candidate will receive the same question. Each candidate has 2 minutes to answer and may comment on other questions during that time. There will be no rebuttal time. Timekeepers will let the candidates know when 30 seconds are up and when time expires. It says time. We thank each candidate in advance for respecting the time limits. We hope to get through at least 2 rounds of questions, and as you know, we are streaming this live on 6abc.com. Also, if you're on Twitter, you can use the hashtag #PhillyTourismForum. Let's begin with opening statements. First up, Doug Oliver.
Right in the middle. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. With my minute, I'd like to say that my campaign platform is predicated on 3 things: schools, jobs, and fairness. In a city like Philadelphia, I think we can all agree that schools is number 1. In a city where we have some who have and some who don't, the bridge is education and also jobs, employment in the city with 28% unemployment. Fairness, the issue that some have and some don't, and having a leader who understands that. What I like about tourism and hospitality is it touches on all 3 of them. People test drive before they buy. They come here to visit, they come here to check us out, and if they like what they see, they consider moving here. When they do, we expand our tax base. We then have the resources we need for all of the things, including schools here in the city of Philadelphia. With respect to jobs, the 65,000 jobs here give people an opportunity for careers where they can have transferable skills that allow them to go in any direction they want. And with respect to fairness, we're not choosing between those who have and those who don't have. We're getting the money from people who don't even live here and don't use our services. That's a tremendous benefit for us in the city with all of the resources that come, and I'm happy to be here with you all this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Lynn Abraham.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me here. This is an auspicious place to be. Looking out the window to my right, your left, we can see the Independence Hall, the cradle of liberty of this country. The thought of that is not lost on us, that we represent the probably most historic mile anywhere in the country. And that's why, in part, our tourism and travel and hospitality industry is so important, a driver of economic development and growth as it is. I'm a big booster. I love Philadelphia, and I love to see it grow and prosper. Last year, we had a tremendous amount of tourism. I'm happy that the convention center seems to be at labor peace. I'm delighted that we are seeing our revenues grow as people discover Philadelphia. I'm excited about the Pope coming and 1 million people or more, maybe even 2 million, discovering us for the first time. So Philadelphia is going to be the center of attention of the world over the next 2 years with the Democratic Convention coming in 2016 and beyond. So I'm delighted to be here. I'm running for mayor, and I ask for everybody's support.
Thank you, Ms. Abraham. Anthony Williams.
Thank you. Good morning. Philadelphia is assuming its position on the world stage. A significant number of high-level events are going to occur over the next few years in Philadelphia. And that coordination between the next mayor and the folks in this room is very significant for all of us. Understand this. This is not just simply about tourism. This is about an interview globally and nationally. People will decide across America whether they want to move their business here or whether they want to move themselves. Internationally, whether they want to do business here or move their companies here. In order to do that, the next mayor has to work with you as a significant partner. I will promise you the following things. Philadelphia will be a cleaner city. We will invest $15 million in new equipment with a $5 investment in car registration so that you can see once a week cleaning the streets of Philadelphia. So not only tourists, but Philadelphians will feel much cleaner about themselves. We will have an economic plan for growth so that when they land here, small business, energy hub, and technology are part of the conversation that everyone has when we talk about not just simply tourism, but economic development. And lastly, this mayor will travel with you. It's not a junket when the mayor arrives in other parts of the world. It's an endorsement of what this means and this room means.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Melissa Murray Bailey.
Hi, my name is Melissa Murray Bailey. I'm the Republican candidate for mayor. So wondering if there's 1 or 2 people out there who are able to vote for me on May 19th. But I'm in this election because I really want Philadelphia to be considering their election in November. I want us to bring checks and balances to the system. And through all these mayoral forums, we're asking the same questions we've been asking election over election. And you know, they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I'm bringing a new and fresh perspective in looking at these issues and bringing common sense and business answers to what we can be doing so that we can streamline some of our services so we can have more money for things that are actually going to generate more money for the city. Spend a lot of my time traveling, and so growing up in New Jersey, I came to Philadelphia twice a year on our class trips, and I'm one of those people who tried before I bought and found Philadelphia was the destination for me to raise my family.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Jim Kenney.
Good morning, and I've spent most of my career in council dealing with everyone in this room on issues relative to tourism and hospitality. It is not just a feel-good, have-fun thing. It is an industry that we need to foster. It's a third of our employment. And the one thing I recognized this morning as I was getting dressed to come here, I saw 2 commercials for Williamsburg, one for Florida, and I think one for Michigan in the space of 2 hours. We have to invest in advertising the city. And I think in Harrisburg, when we used to get the help we used to get to advertise our city, to be present in many areas of our country for people who want to come here, that has gone away. And if the city of Philadelphia does not put its own money into an advertising campaign to promote this city, then we're not going to be successful. What's happened to the convention center, I think, is tremendous, and we need to promote that through advertising on television and other avenues, but we need the money to do it. If the state's not going to put it in, I'm going to put it in.
Thank you, Mr. Kenney. Nelson Diaz.
Well, I decided to run for mayor because of the issues of the school system and how chaotic it is. And I want to fix the schools, which I think impact on the economy of the city. And I want to make sure that every child in the city gets an education so that you have a workforce that can get into this industry. I have worked with almost all of you. I was on the board of the Pennsylvania Convention Center. I was the co-chair of PHL, which used to be called MAC. I've done the marketing activities. I've worked with the hotel industry. I've lobbied for the 1.5% interest so that we can get some of that money into the industry so that we could use that for marketing, so you have a stable money fund to be able to do that. Sometimes it isn't enough, but I have to tell you that with the fact that we're having the convention here, and it started basically with the Republican convention, where we brought about so many new hotels and a new industry and new opportunities in terms of marketing the city. Now with the Pope and then the coming of the Democratic convention, we're going to have more opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Now to our questions. You each have 2 minutes to answer. First one up, Jim Kenney. Mr. Kenney, work rules changed at the Pennsylvania Convention Center last year. Some unions were locked out. Others, led by Electricians Union head John Doherty, got jobs. Is it better now? Should some of those unions that were locked out be allowed back in?
Well, it's certainly better now, and despite the fact that unions get the reputation, or have the reputation, or it's promoted in the media and by some of the candidates on the stage as to how bad these unions are, I will tell you that was the most unprecedented action I have ever seen in this city, where 3 or 4 major unions crossed 2 major unions' picket lines in order to make this center a better place. And you know, it was a long time coming, and there was a lot of grief and aggravation that went on in that center over many, many years. And finally, those guys wised up, and they realized that they were spiting themselves by not cooperating with management and getting this done. I had pleaded with the Carpenters Union to please sign that agreement. I talked to him on a number of times right before the deadline, and for whatever reason, he decided not to. He's a friend, and I like him, and I wish he had signed on. But no one waits for progress. Progress moves on, and that center is now booking opportunities and groups that promised they would never come here ever again in their lifetime, and they're signing back up again. So kudos to the guys who had the courage to cross a picket line to do what's good for the entire community and not just for themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Kenney. Our next question goes to Nelson Diaz. The city, as you know, has many priorities: schools, policing, infrastructure, taking out the trash. Where does supporting tourism and hospitality fall on your list of priorities? Where do these people fall on your list of priorities?
There's no question that it's one of my top priorities because it is one of the major industries of the city. It's impossible to be able to receive these revenues for me to have worked in each one of these areas and to promote. And I've brought conventions here that are diverse that other people have never brought, like the NCLR and some of the other minority conventions that come throughout the country. Why? Because I believe the city is the Bedford of all history, and then also the opportunity for us to show off that we have a walking city and we have a community that is supportive of it. And the press has been very, very supportive of all the conventions that have come here and have covered them in a great way. I disagree with one thing in terms of the fact that there are too many unions in there, which raise the cost of running the conventions in the convention center. There should be one process opportunity for us to work with a union and not them all fighting about just plugging the outlets and having us pay numerous amounts of money just for plugging an outlet. There should be a real freedom to be able to work through some of the minor things, and that's why our conventions cost more and some people won't come here because of the cost of these conventions.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Our next question goes to Lynn Abraham. Every time something bad happens in Philadelphia, outside media outlets mention that thing with Santa Claus being booed at the Eagles game. Does the city have a perception problem, and if so, how would you change it?
I don't get the sense from traveling around the country that Philadelphia has a bad reputation at all. I know that we are known as the Boo Birds, but I think that's just a passing, sort of a passing fad that is overtaken by destination promotion. I think Philadelphia, it's hard for us to realize how much really Philadelphia is promoted around the country, and our logo is out there, and the XOXO on all of our billboards. I think we don't have a perception problem at all. But I do believe that we have to make sure that our state government steps up and restores the position of a tourism director, whatever the name of that person or those people are called. The state has an obligation too, because travel and tourism just doesn't affect Philadelphia. It enhances and grows the economy of the surrounding counties. Pennsylvania is a fabulous state, and Philadelphia and the state do best when we join forces together and promote Philadelphia and Pennsylvania as a destination. And I think that the enhancement of Philadelphia is obvious. I mean, why would the Pope come to Philadelphia if we had such a bad reputation? Why is tourism and marketing up dramatically? Why is our hotel occupancy rate, even on the weekends, up dramatically? Why are more conventions coming here? and that is that we are doing a tremendous job of marketing, and we have to do even more because every city, every state has a great opportunity for tourism. I think the convention center business will be enhanced by the DNC, by the NAACP, by the just welcoming nature that all of the participants in this room have spread around, extending goodwill, doing a great job at marketing, and say, come to Philadelphia, we love you. Make a night of it, make a week of it, come and do business in Philadelphia, we're open.
Thank you, Ms. Abraham. Our next question to Anthony Williams. Philadelphia International Airport is obviously a very important part of tourism and hospitality. Would you look to sell PHL, and if not, how would you look to improve it?
Well, one, I want to thank you for being the moderator this morning because it's early in the morning and your voice has stunned us all this morning. So I want to thank you. So the airport is an asset that the city should maintain. We should not sell it, and most big airports are not sold and not run by municipalities. The question is how we more effectively integrate those relationships in business, economic development, planning, tourism, the like. And I think, frankly, that we're moving in that direction, not just as a city. Understand the Philadelphia airport is a regional airport, and we have to have a plan from a regional perspective about how you expand it, how you improve it. I think they've done extensive studies on how to do it, and I think that the city and the state are, frankly, beginning to make investments in that area that we haven't seen in a lifetime. So I think the airport is on the rise, much work to be done, but I think it's an asset that the city wants to maintain and the region also wants to maintain.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Melissa Murray Bailey, our next question. We brought up already the fact that the Democratic National Convention is coming to town next year. How should the taxpayers support blockbuster events such as these? In terms of money.
I don't know. I haven't thought much about that one. I think the taxpayers should support these types of events by welcoming outsiders into Philadelphia. Moving into Philadelphia just about 3 years ago, we're not a very open arms type community. And when visitors come in, they need help getting around. If you're down in SEPTA, it's really hard to figure out how you get across town. Doesn't exactly say where you're going, and sometimes you need to pat someone on the shoulder and say, hey, which way to the visitor center, which way to the Liberty Bell, or I need to get to the convention center. And I think as taxpayers, we stand to gain a lot if the tourism business grows because we'll have more revenue coming in. And a lot of people's perception of a city is about how the people treated them when they came here. So I think that's the first and foremost thing that we can do. And I would venture to say that we don't have a great reputation when it comes to that. When I was telling my global clients and my friends that I had decided to move from Singapore to Philadelphia, not a single person said, good for you. Most people said, why? You could live in New York, you lived in Australia, Singapore, DC. Why are you going to Philadelphia? And I have all the reason in the world to come here, not just because my family is here and I'm from here, but I really do believe in the future of Philadelphia and that we're moving ourselves forward. So that's the responsibility for all of us to be out there as ambassadors for the city, and I think the mayor leads the charge in those efforts.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey. Everyone pat yourselves on the back. We have made it to round 2. Jim Kenney. We've mentioned the DNC. We've mentioned the fact that Pope Francis is coming to town. These are great things. If you become mayor, what do you see as the next big thing that Philadelphia should strive for?
Well, we've talked about the Olympics potentially. I think that is a big picture, and some folks have said, well, maybe we shouldn't think that big, but I disagree. I think we should continue to be in line or to try to stay in line for something like that. But I think in addition to the big things, and I'm just thrilled that Pope Francis is coming as a product of St. Joe's Prep and the Jesuits. Having a Jesuit Pope in Philadelphia is just an awesome thing. It's very inspiring. But I also think we should be looking, in addition to the big things, to the smaller things. I think that we need to continue to fill that center, those 2 buildings, that center, in every way possible. And a lot of the things that I've been pursuing were a little more below the radar is youth sports, having youth tournaments in our city where young people have to come to play basketball or volleyball, and they come with their families, and their families stay in hotels. It generates hotel nights. It generates a good feeling where people can go around and walk around our city and really get to know it. The big things are important, and the DNC will be paid for mostly with outside dollars that are contributed through the party. And our job as a mayor and our job as a city is to make sure everyone is safe, to make sure everyone is happy and held and looked to in a hospitable way. We need to put our best face on and greet the world. I would think the Olympics would probably be something that I would love to pursue and continue to stay in line to try to get it.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. I would like to apologize to Doug Oliver because we did not offer him a question in the first round, so he is next. Mr. Oliver, what is the hospitality industry doing right, and what is it doing wrong? Offer your critique.
We'll start with what's going right. I think the hospitality industry understands the importance of investment. I don't think anybody thinks $1 million is a little bit of money, but in the big scheme of things, for a city this size, it's not enough. If you look at any business that does well, they spend almost 3-4% of their revenue promoting themselves. The basic marketing mix, the product, the price, the placement, and the promotion, we've got an amazing product. The price of Philadelphia and what you get for the dollar that you spend here is amazing. We got those two things down pat, and I think this industry does a good job of recognizing that and then works very well on the promotion and the placement of that promotion in places that will generate a return for the investment of those dollars. An area where I think the industry could do a little bit better is promoting neighborhoods. One of the best parts of our city is our diversity. All of our commercial corridors, so much of our tax revenue comes from small business, and those small businesses are often international. I think communicating to the rest of the world, the rest of the country, the rest of the world, what you get here in our neighborhoods, the affordability of those neighborhoods, and the fact that you can come here and still feel right at home is something that we could do a better job of, including having tours that leave Center City and go into the neighborhood so they can actually see what doesn't get that much attention. If there was one last thing, I'd partner with colleges and universities. They do a lot of work to promote themselves. But promoting themselves in the context of Philadelphia, I think, leverages their dollars with ours so that people know that they can come here not only to learn, but then they can play here and then they can live here, meaning our schools, they can have a job, they can start businesses here, and sort of stretching those tourism dollars to start talking about those other real-life issues are things that I think the industry could do a little better job of.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. Again, my apologies. Nelson Diaz. Should you, as mayor, have a hospitality cabinet, who would be on it and what would they do?
Well, I want to make sure I don't lose any votes, so I won't mention any names. But I have to tell you that people within the marketing and tourism area are incredibly talented and capable. Those thoughts of the pajamas, going at night, and taking the hotels for the weekend, and those thoughts about the fact that it's a walking city, and so many innovations have been incredibly fascinating, and the fact that they go to Harrisburg frequently to try to get money for the convention and visitors' activities is really, for me, something that I applaud. But one of the issues that I think we have to do is that we have about 40 to 48% of the population that commutes out to work. And so we've got to be able to increase business and small business opportunities down here. And we also have to be able to promote and have the 28% that is in the poverty rate to be a part of the industry and to be able to educate them and get into the hospitality industry so that they can also have an opportunity to benefit from the largesse. A lot of it goes up to the state. They get about 9% of the money that the convention center gets. So not all of it stays here. So what we do here and the benefits that here accrue to the entire state. I hope you realize that we're also doing the state a favor. So they should be very, very willing to continue to promote and to provide with tax opportunities so that the marketing that we do not only comes from these centers, but also comes from the mayor and the mayor's cabinet. The mayor's cabinet should have a city representative and a commerce and a finance director that is totally involved together with this industry and should be on their boards. And likewise, we should be inviting many of them to many of the activities that the mayor has in terms of planning future economic development.
Our next question goes to Lynn Abraham. We're talking about hotels here. We have more than a dozen new ones in the pipeline, many of them expected to be finished in 2017. Do we, with high ambitions to have even bigger conventions, need even more hotels? And what would you do as mayor to prevent many of these hotels from sitting empty in the event of an economic collapse like the one we saw in 2009?
Well, obviously, market forces are going to drive hotel construction. However, one of the big problems about Philadelphia is that tourism and marketing people always complain that there isn't enough hotel capacity. My guess is that the DNC will test this market very, very strongly. I know that this is not a problem unique to Philadelphia. I've been to 6 Democratic national conventions, and I was always staying in the next state. It was I was so far out of Denver, I think I was in Colorado Springs. I mean, I think this is always a challenge. And I think the hotel industry best knows how to gauge that, but certainly that is going to be fought out. And besides which, I think that hotels wouldn't build here if they didn't have a need or want of capacity, and a capacity that comes across all economic lines. For example, not everybody wants to stay at a 5-star or 5-diamond hotel. People want to stay in bed and breakfast, which is a thriving industry in Philadelphia. People want to stay in budget hotels, medium hotels, and I think the marketing and tourism industry is being very wise in not only promoting Philadelphia as a destination city, but getting our name known throughout the country and the world. I think that in the event of an economic collapse, I mean, a real economic collapse, there's almost nothing that people will be able to do to enhance people to come Philadelphia if there's a stock market crash or something like that. However, an economic downturn can turn into an advantage if we promote Philadelphia as an affordable, safe, wonderful city with enough bathrooms for the public, better signage, and I believe we're welcoming. I go up to strangers every day in various languages, which I'm all poor in, and try to help them. But I think that as much as I can help them in a foreign language, but I do believe that the hotel industry needs to consider all of those things. And the one thing they're battling against, frankly, as an aside, is sort of aggressive homelessness begging, which has really become a problem for tourism. So we have to address that along the way.
Anthony Williams, the roads are filled with potholes.
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious. Many of them in the city of Philadelphia. SEPTA always needs improvements. How do you get the money to do these things, and where are your priorities when it comes to improving transportation in the city?
So I proposed a $5 increase on your vehicle registration, and it would go directly towards filling potholes in Philadelphia. Maintaining streets. I mentioned making Philadelphia a cleaner place. And so the things that a mayor actually can do, I talk about in a plan and have a vision, and by the way, a means to get there without raising hotel taxes. We will not raise hotel taxes to fill in the sins of mismanagement of our industry. I mean, of what we do in the budget. I use the balance of my time. I'm just compelled to do this, I apologize, but this is maybe the Democrat versus Republican. I don't understand why anybody would be questioning why you would move to Philadelphia. My position is why not? I talk to a lot of people who love this city. When you run off Jay-Z's here with the Pope in the same space, I'm not sure who's going to miss in between. We are the fastest growing city with regard to millennials in the nation. We are a hot spot. And so I don't understand, maybe somebody in Singapore in the neighborhood missed the moment, but we are it, okay? We are hot. And so this industry is the backbone of what's going to make it even hotter. We're going to support it, move it forward. We're not going to tax it out of existence. We're going to make the streets cleaner, and we're going to do potholes. Because my wife has had 2 flat tires in the last month, and it's cost me a lot of money. So thank you.
Melissa Murray Bailey, how can you link the unemployed to jobs in the hospitality industry, and would these jobs pay enough?
I think first I might comment that unfortunately perception is reality. And I did choose to move here because I see all of the potential. And I want to be an ambassador for that so that people can see it. I also want to talk a little bit about our airport because if we really want to be an international destination like we're talking about, our airport actually needs to be able to service international destinations. So there's a lot that we can do there to improve our perception. The reality is great, but it's the perception, and we need to think about our brand. and the marketing that goes along with the brand of Philadelphia, and make sure that we're marketing things that are distinct to Philadelphia and not just saying what every other city is saying out there. When we talk about the poverty rate and jobs in the hospitality industry, I think that's one of the things that makes the hospitality industry so unique and so special to the city, because it offers jobs across the whole spectrum for Philadelphia citizens. So we need to look at what are things that people can do who are coming right out of high school. How can we be connecting high school students with jobs in the hospitality industry? Is that things through high school career fairs where we can let people know what their opportunities are? And so as we continue to improve our brand and improve our perception and get more and more people coming into the city, that's going to allow for jobs. And so we just need to make sure that we're marketing those jobs effectively to the people who need them most.
Doug Oliver. It's tough to compete with a lot of other cities to get big conventions because some of these other cities offer a lot. In fact, sometimes the whole store. Money, other options. Do you think that Philadelphia should provide a war chest for this purpose as seed money, and where would the money come from to insert into that war chest?
That's a good question. I think the less you have to offer, the more incentives you have to give. I think that we as a city have so many different reasons to be here that we don't have to set aside as much for those purposes. I think it's useful to have it in those events when you need it. If it, for example, came down to Philadelphia or Chicago for DNC and we needed some incentive, I don't think you want to lose that convention just because you didn't have a couple of extra dollars. But for the most part, I think Philadelphia is a fantastic place to be, and I think people know that already. I think the same thing about tax abatements and how we develop sometimes. It's a tool to generate development, but once that development occurs, we can take that abatement and put it someplace else to spur more development. You don't get rid of the tool, you just apply it differently. So I think having some resources on hand, available in a war chest, if you will, for a rainy day, but I think we should hold on to it and let us leverage the benefit of the things we already have, our parks, our restaurants, our sports teams, our open space, our nightlife, our, just so many different things that we bring to the table. Affordability, access, a bridge between New York and DC, Harrisburg. We're right in the middle of everything, and a lot of folks know that. So I don't want to incentivize too much what would already occur, but we need to be prepared to do so in the event that we do have to from time to time.
Jim Kenney, the homeless. We want to help them. The city does. We have many shelters. When tourists arrive, though, tourists don't necessarily like to encounter panhandlers and other people such as that. So how do you find a balance between the two?
Well, first I think you have to identify, when you say homeless, there's many levels of homelessness. Generally, people who are homeless, for the most part, and we remember when we were younger, the bag ladies that would be in the city, they're for the most part in shelter, in home, and in Project Home and places like that. The people you see on the street who are asking for money are generally addicted individuals who have a place to stay. It may not be the most wonderful place to stay, but they have a roof over their head, and they're out there feeding their addiction. We have to work with the advocate community and the people who know this issue better than the government sometimes on how we approach folks. Every time, you cannot sweep people off the street. You cannot just get people out of there, because understandably, the advocates for those folks will go into federal court and they will stop that. We'll wind up having a consent decree and perhaps paying a fine. So we have to integrate with the advocacy community and our social service people the ability to go out and to engage these folks and try to figure out what it is that is keeping them out there, what addiction they have. The other issue for us is we have a disgraceful situation with homeless veterans. A lot of these guys out in the street are veterans, and it's disgraceful to have served your country and then be outdoors, panhandling in the street. So we got to figure out how we integrate the available services through the Veterans Administration, through our social service agencies, and through the advocacy community. You cannot just dictate this problem away. You need to deal with it in a sensitive way, and you need to deal with it in an effective way. And I think that if we continue to do that with those folks, we'll be successful. But the government can't just crack down on folks who are out there because they have a right to be in the space as everyone else does as Americans. So we need to utilize our resources to continually deal with the problem. It's going to be a persistent problem, but we have to make it the best situation that we can make it.
Nelson Diaz, a quick question for the audience. How many use Uber or Lyft? And candidates too, I guess. Would you be a friend to Uber and Lyft? We've seen them run into a lot of trouble trying to use their car-sharing apps in Philadelphia and have their drivers in here. Would you be a friend to those car-sharing apps?
I use Uber. There's no problem. I use taxis. I use public transportation for everything. You want to see all my cards? I have them with you. All my tickets for every public transportation system there is. And it's so important to be able to make sure that they're clean, that we can use them to promote that the drivers are knowledgeable of the city. When they say a museum, it's not just a Franklin Museum, it's the Museum of Art or it's the Barnes. And so they need to be educated also as to what's available and where you can go, and you got to have them clean. And you have to have access to be able to use it, either credit cards or other means of payment, because some of them won't take your, and today very few people walk around with money. And so you need that kind of viability. And then some of these Uber drivers also can come back for you because they have a lot more time on their hands, unlike some of the taxi drivers. So you can develop a relationship with some of the Uber guys, and I think that really would be helpful in terms of the tourism that occurs here. There were comments made relating to the convention center in terms of the labor movement, but I got to tell you, when I was on the convention center board, the biggest problem we had was the fights between all of the unions so that we can essentially be able to price out the work that was necessary there. And I would just hope that one of the benchmarks of the next mayor is that we have peace in this valley, that we have peace in the opportunities to make sure that the convention center, that they see it as their convention center also, and they see it as the economic engine of the city of Philadelphia, which it has been. And I'm very proud of the expansion that we can bring so many other types of convention here from all over the world. And we have to make sure that we fix that labor issue, and I would be one that would make sure that that would happen.
Lynn Abraham. Some cities have hospitality zones. They're also known as entertainment districts. Some may suggest we sort of have one in the form of Penn's Landing, generally. Does the city actually need to find a place where it can call it a hospitality zone, and what do you think it should be used for?
You know, as I see Center City, Philadelphia, since most people who come here, at least to Philadelphia, tend to stay in the general area of where we are right now, sitting at Independence Hall, I would say that's generally from the riverfront, where we have opened the park, the leisure park. I think we can make better use of that part of our city. I believe that for the past, 50 years since Jim Tate was the mayor, we've been fighting over what should be at Penn's Landing, and it's still an unfinished painting. I believe that there should be the mayor's office should be the driver, along with the Penn's Landing Corporation and everybody else, to make that part of the city, the riverfront, the stunning jewel in the crown of travel and tourism. It's getting better, but it needs so much more. So if you figure it goes from the river to the art museum, from the Delaware to the art museum, and generally speaking from, I'll say, Vine to, let's say, Pine or below, we could have various pods of hospitality information. I think we need more in the way of information and assistance to tourism. So right here in Independence Mall, we have a visitor center. At 17th or 16th and JFK, we have that donut, and I'm not sure what it is. It's sort of a, I don't know, it's sort of a no man's land. I don't know what that's supposed to be. It started off auspicious enough, but it's sort of fallen into uselessness. I think we have to do something to attract that. I think we should make Penn's Landing have an information center. And it's not bad at all to turn, and we have to some extent, our Center City District men and women who are sprucing up Philadelphia, wear uniforms, are great goodwill ambassadors. So I don't know that we need a tourism center per se. We already have the beginnings of that. I think we just need to do more. For example, increase and enhance signage. So when the arrow points that way, it just doesn't end in no man's land. And I do believe that will help with tourism.
Anthony Williams. We should all spend a few moments to thank a man named William Penn for making our streets go like this and like this. They're very easy to navigate. A lot of people like the fact that Philadelphia is a walkable city. We've seen this new trail along the Schuylkill River be put up. It's very popular, it's beautiful. Do you foresee anything else that we can do around the city like that?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff we can do around that. Matter of fact, I was at a forum, another one of those, yes, where we talked about mobility in the city of Philadelphia. They had a lot of great ideas with regard to how we move around the city and use the space that we actually have, biking, hiking, walking, jogging. I don't do a lot of jogging. A variety of other things in that regard. And the investments that we have made through the private sector and the public sector in terms of partnership to expand those areas is the dynamic behind it. And I think that, frankly, is one of the most significant things that sort of illuminates those of us who are concerned about how we build out the opportunity for tourists to get beyond the limited space of Center City is around this space of what we do and invest in terms of privately and publicly. And I will remind us, though, by the way, that we're on these forums and they are recorded and people remind the truth. So I was at a mobility forum when everybody talked about they rode bikes. I was the only person who confessed I actually rode in a car. Now people are talking about they all use Uber. I'm not sure how you do both. I guess you put the bike on top of the Uber. I'm not sure how it works, but I just want to make sure there is a record of truth.
Our next question goes to Melissa Murray Bailey. What do you see are the biggest challenges to grow the hospitality industry, and how would you do it, and with whose money?
I think there's a couple of challenges. One we've talked about a little bit already, which is the perception and the differentiation of Philadelphia and what we can offer. In my job, I run a market research firm, and we focus on branding companies so that students will want to go and work for those companies. I think we could really leverage some market research in order to understand what we can do to set Philadelphia apart. What's going to make someone want to take their kids on a history buff run and go to Philadelphia versus Washington, D.C., or versus Williamsburg? Until we have that data and we know what we can do, we're not going to be able to really set ourselves apart. So the money that we invest might not get us the returns that we're looking for. And so that's really what I want to do across all phases of government, is make sure that we have measurement in place so that we have the right programs that are going to deliver the results that we want. I've been in about 50 airports across the past 5 years in over 20 countries. I've seen what other people are doing and how they're welcoming people into their city and the types of approaches that they have to make themselves more visitor friendly. And I think I can bring that perspective in partnership with what you all are already doing to allow us to really get even more people to come into the city.
Doug Oliver, the mayor of Philadelphia is also an ambassador to the world and is supposed to bring business here. What type of ambassador would you be, and how many trips would you take on taxpayers' dime to try and build more business interests? Some of them are criticized, whether you're a mayor or a governor or the president. You're spending taxpayers' money. Talk about that as well.
That question's not fraught with danger at all. I do think that a role of a mayor is to be a vision setter, to be a team builder, to be a strong communicator, and to be a cheerleader. The two that most directly equate to or relate to the tourism hospitality industry is the first and the last. Being a vision setter and setting the broad definition of who we are as a city, what we want to be, and creating the identity for at least the 4 to 8 years that the mayor has to put his or her or his fingerprint on the city of Philadelphia's timeline. With respect to being a cheerleader, though, you have to go out there and promote yourself. You have to go out there and get people. If no one else was promoting themselves, then we might not have to promote ourselves. But we know that everyone else is pushing their products, everyone else is pushing their people, their places, and if we don't keep up with that, we won't get the return on that investment. I think the mayor is the face of your city. If you want people to know that you're progressive, if you want people to know that you're forward-thinking, if you want people to know that your city is exciting, if you want people to know that your city is youthful, if you want your city to know all of the... No.
I'm just checking.
It's a youthful, vibrant
I'm just checking
city.
on that.
And I'm just suggesting that you create the identity that you want and you show that. When we said, get your history straight and your nightlife gay, we sent a message that has paid off for us. We started to attract all sorts of different communities to the city of Philadelphia because they saw that that was important. When you have a city where the average age is 33 years, you've written a check already. People bought that. They came. The question is now what we do with it. How much more are we going to continue to push in the pipeline so we start to see the benefit on the back end? If you think that the 50,000 people that are in this city knew that weren't here 7 years ago came by accident, then you're fooling yourself. It was promotion. These are the things we have to think of. And so, yes, the mayor must travel. And, yes, that's part of the taxpayer's responsibility to fund.
We're going to take some audience questions in a little bit, so if you can start thinking of yours, we'd be happy to bring you up and ask some questions of the candidates. Up next, Jim Kenney. What are Philadelphia's greatest assets and what is holding us back?
Well, I think our greatest asset is our people. I mean, with the earlier question when we started this conversation was about, you know, the gritty Philadelphian with the bad Philadelphia reputation. I find Philadelphians extremely friendly, and I think and it's extremely fun. I mean, I just spent some time campaigning. I've been from South Philadelphia, but I did some campaigning on East Passaic Avenue, and you go inside and out of those shops, and people are giving you mozzarella cheese, and I mean, it's just it's just a wonderful experience. And I think that people, when they come here and they meet our people, I think that they understand that that is the case, and we just have to get them here, and we have to get them here by marketing our city. For every $1 we spend in marketing and promotion, we get $4 back in return. That's not a bad deal. That's an excellent deal, and I think that the Commonwealth has lost sight sometimes of that fact. Our biggest challenge is our resources and our ability to get our face out there, to get our name out there, and to overcome some of the issues relative to what people perceive as a city experience. Because our city experience is awesome, I think. And I think, again, it's walkability, it's culture, it's history, it's people, it's ethnic and multicultural neighborhoods. I mean, I think we got a lot going for us. We just have to make sure that people, when they're getting dressed in the morning like I was this morning, see 2 or 3 commercials about Philadelphia. I think we'll be well on our way to really making this town a big splash.
Nelson Diaz. How much politicking would you do at big conventions when they come to town, or small ones, or medium-sized ones, to try and generate more business, not only with the convention center, but with the city of Philadelphia broadly?
Well, if I could either walk, bike, or take Uber, or take all of my transportation that I have here, you know, I've got rail, metro, Amtrak, Smart Trip, and even the regional rail. Some people have never seen a regional rail in this panel. I have to tell you that Tony didn't even go to the mobility conference. He sent a person over there, and all of a sudden he's an expert on that. So you got to see that. You got to be able. You got to be able. Yeah, he sent a representative. So you got to be able. You have to be able to welcome the people that come to the city.